The other day, there was occasion to have tea with someone who has been coming to visit over some years, and you could call him a spiritual seeker, but always frustrated because he lamented that he had never had a mystical experience or any spiritual visions. But several months ago, he sent me a text and said, "I just wanted to let you know that I've given up spirituality. It's a load of ... So we've had several teas in between time, but with no conversation of what you would call anything of a spiritual nature. And it was like that the other day. We had a very enjoyable exchange over a cup of tea. But as we were parting, I asked him rather pointedly, "Well, what are you doing now?" And without a moment's hesitation, out of his mouth came, "I'm guiding people." So we've been asking the question over these last days, where is this place that we arrive at when heaven and earth, or existence and non-existence, or permanency and impermanency, or the inner and the outer, stillness and movement meet? And we could also ask, what arises out of that place? So there are several old anecdotes that are put together as a somewhat of a riddle for us, to allow us to examine this place and what its qualities are, and its emanations, its manifestations for us. And the first is that little anecdote about, and a true story, it is said, told in the annals of Ramakrishna, the great saint, that there was an occasion when Vivekananda came to him, was called to him. And during that time, whatever happened, Vivekananda fainted in a swoon. Whether we can call it ecstasy or not, that's another question. But when he came out of that experience, Ramakrishna said to him, "Now I am a beggar." Vivekananda came to the West and began what we know as the Vedanta movement. But we can glean from this anecdote that it was obvious that there was some transference, some transmission that took place between Ramakrishna and Vivekananda. Now the second old anecdote is about that spiritual master who had a number of followers. And one day they came to him and said, "Master, we know that you can confer enlightenment, or whatever else it's called, on us in a moment. Why is it that we have had to come to you over all of these years and sit in your presence?" And the old master said, "Let me tell you a story. There were two men who had saucepans encrusted with the accumulation of years and years of use. Now, the first man took his saucepan to a certain person who said to him, "Yes, leave it with me for a day or two and come back and I'll have it as good as new for you." And so it was. After several days, when the man came back to get his saucepan, it was shining, as good as new. But when he put it on the stove to cook, it disintegrated before his very eyes. The second man took his pot to another man, who said, "Leave it with me. I will let you know when it is ready for you to collect." And over that time, the man scraped and scoured and polished, so that when he was called to pick up his pot, it appears as good as new and was able to be used for his lifetime thereafter. And so said the master, "You see, if I threw you into the full fire of my love, you would be rendered unable to give further service." The third story is that story about the young man who had come into the Buddha's presence day after day after day, because the Buddha had settled down and allowed people to come together around him. And so one day, when the man arrived, he asked the Buddha, "Please, Master, won't you tell me? I've been sitting in your presence for many, many years now." And that young man, who had been listening to the Buddha's dissertation, indeed had listened, but he had not put into any practice what the Buddha was speaking of. But he asked his question. He said, "Master, tell me, I've been in your presence for these many years, and I see the people who come to sit with you, and it is obvious that some of them have reached what is called that moksha, or liberation. All their lives have greatly improved by sitting in your presence. But I also see that there are some, like myself, who seem to be in the same place that they were, without change. Tell me, Master, what is the reason for this?" And the Buddha said to the young man, "You obviously live here in this place now, but I can see from your visage that you are not a native of this place. From where do you come?" The young man said, "Oh, I came from Benares, a distance from here." "Oh," said the Buddha, "and have you cut your ties with your home place?" "Oh no," said the young man, "I have business, I have family. I travel very often between here and Benares." So the Buddha said, "Then of course you know this road very, very well." And the young man said, yes, of course, even if I were blindfolded, I would be able to find my way back to Benares. And the Buddha said, well, tell me, I'm sure there are people who ask you about what there is in Benares, what it's like there. And I would guess that you'd give them details about what you know about that place. And they would ask you, well, how do you get there? And you would explain to them the road and what lay on the road for them. Oh yes, very often, said the young man, people ask me about what there is in Benares and how to get there. And the Buddha said, well, tell me, does everyone go? Oh no, said the young man, there are those who ask me about that place and how to get there, but they never make the journey. And there are others who find their way. And so, said the Buddha, that is the way it is. People know that I know well the destination, and they ask, tell me about it. What is it that's there? Tell me how I might reach it. But I cannot carry them. I cannot make the journey for them. So these three anecdotes and story. When we're asking ourselves the question, where are we? What is this place? What are its manifestations when heaven and earth, existence and non-existence, permanency and impermanency meet? And more directly, knowing these stories, and there's no doubt that we ourselves use the phrase sometimes in the presence of someone. He or she has presence. He or she has charisma. And we can ask ourselves, what is this force? What is this power that can be called presence? And we know presence and charisma, an aura, an emanation. What is it that you're finding in your life now that can only be arrived at when we know both sides of it? When we've tasted the impermanence of existence, the changing realities, and we also have experienced what has many names, the void, the emptiness, mostly described as pathos or suffering. But in fact we've experienced as something that's always there. The constancy, the bedrock. What are you experiencing? What is this force that can be called presence, charisma, and many other names, that is now present for you? knowing as you do. Both sides of the coin. Permanency, impermanency. That which doesn't go away, and that which is ever changing. What is it?